My name is Lee. I am 16 years old and I'm a junior in high school in Davis, California. I am a trans guy and I am pansexual. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I moved to Davis in July 2016, so about 2.5 years ago. And when I first came to Davis, it felt like a pretty accepting place, and I eventually came out as a bisexual woman. This was very well accepted. My friends were very supportive, didn't really care that much, which was interesting to me because where I'd lived before was a pretty conservative area. Um, I remember thinking that there were not a lot of queer people back where I came from. And so coming to Davis was a really interesting experience. There were a lot of people who were really openly proud, and that was really a wonderful thing to see. I got involved relatively early on with YOLO Rainbow Families, which is an organization that helps kids and families that are LGBT kind of navigate through the school system and stuff like that. And that was a really great experience for me. I got to meet a lot of LGBT people. I also quickly got involved with the GSA, the Genders and Sexualities Alliance, formerly known as the Gay Straight Alliance, which I am the president of this year. Um, all of these things kind of like helped me just kind of meet more people from the LGBT community and become more comfortable with how I express myself. Um, Slowly I came to realize that I didn't really feel comfortable being treated and being addressed as a woman with feminine pronouns like she, and it became kind of a journey for me to just start figuring out how I felt comfortable. I started dressing in more masculine clothes. I changed my name to something that was more gender neutral, and I really felt a lot more comfortable with who I was and as a more masculine person. I think my family were really important because they didn't really pay too much attention to it. They let me kind of be myself and kind of figure it out. And whatever I told them, they would understand and they would take in and process. And that was something that's really helpful. Just my family was really accepting, and I got very lucky with my parents. They're wonderful people, and I feel very thankful for them just being really understanding. Now, of course, they do have trouble because they've been living with me for 16 years, kind of adjusting to the new name and new pronouns, but they've really caught on relatively fast, which is something that really not a lot of people have. Um, I know when I first came out as bisexual to my parents, they were very, very understanding. They didn't have any problem with it. When I came out as trans, it was sort of a different experience. They didn't really know what it was, and that was just kind of, I had to educate myself and educate them about it, but it's gone over really well. My friends, as I said, have been really supportive, especially when I got into 10th grade. That's when I started kind of expressing myself differently, and my friends, a lot of them who are already LGBT, were really understanding, and they really helped me kind of be comfortable with who I was, and they were really important um, in giving me the space to kind of expand how I expressed myself. I think that was really important. Um, I I think teachers so far at school, they they didn't really seem to care about my sexual orientation if I talked about having a girlfriend or anything back when I identified as a woman. Um, but I think they do have a hard time with name and pronouns. I tried to get my name changed in the system, but they couldn't do that. So they put it down as a nickname. And so my teachers will call me Lee, which is great. Pronouns are really difficult though for teachers because they haven't gotten a lot of training. So that can be pretty uncomfortable. And when we have substitute teachers, for example, they don't call you by your nickname. So then I'll be called by my old name, which is not very comfortable. It's called a dead name. And so um, that's one of the things that I think is really something that could be improved, especially in high schools all around the country. People have similar experiences with teachers, and especially substitute teachers. Um, yeah, my teachers overall have been pretty good, and because I managed to get my name like put in the system at the end of my 10th grade year, now in 11th grade, most of my teachers were already, like, it was already in the system, and so most of my teachers already saw it from the very beginning, so it wasn't like changing in the middle of the year. So that was good. I think in general the community is really accepting, and maybe that's just my friend group. But as I said, the Davis Phoenix Coalition really does a lot, and so does the GSA, especially with the school community. We were able to get together every week, and we do movie nights as well, and that's just a really great way to meet people, I think. There's also a Davis LGBT youth group now, which is really cool. I get to meet more kids from the junior highs who identify as LGBT or who are allies, and that's one of the things that I think Davis has done well. Like, the community is very accepting. Um, and definitely my parents were influenced by the community when we first came here, because we hadn't been living here. My parents are from the Bay Area, but we lived abroad for about 12, 13 years, and so that was really interesting for them to come back, and they've definitely been influenced by how accepting this community is, and that's been really great. Talked a lot about meeting new people. I just think that's really important because statistically there's not a lot of LGBT people in this world. I mean, depending on where you look, it's anywhere from 1 or 2 to 10% of the population. I think just meeting new people can be really, really helpful because it gives you a kind of different perception of the world. Everyone has different experiences, and within the LGBT community, I think we learn a lot from each other and how we've dealt with things. I think, like, coming out is kind of the most basic example. People have, like, advice. Sometimes they can help you navigate through something, and that's just a really, I think, really important thing. The fact that you can meet people who've kind of gone through something similar to you. One of the great ways that I've met people is doing extracurriculars. I do theater, which is kind of known to be LGBT, but I joined Acme Theater Company, and they're kind of definitely over-representation of the queer community in there. But it's a fully student-run theater company, and we put on 3 shows a year, and that's been a really formative experience, being able to connect with people through theater. I think it's really taught me a lot, and that's where I met a lot of the other trans masc people that I know. It's just been really, really great being able to go somewhere that's an outside space, outside of school, and where people are really accepting. Like, the first thing we do is just when we, like, do a big meeting for the first time, we kind of sit down in a circle and say names and pronouns, and it's just a really respectful environment, and it's a really wonderful place, I think. I've also joined the high school theater group, and that's also been really cool. Just, I think in general, the things I do are relatively accepting. I'm also in a choir. I am a soprano, which is like the really high female voice. Um, and that's been a kind of different space. There's a few other trans people in the choir, and there's definitely a lot of other people who are not straight in the choir, and it's been interesting. I think the the community we have in there is kind of very different from any other because we travel a lot. We're actually going to Italy over the summer, which is really big. We do competitions and stuff. We spend a lot of time together, so I think that definitely is a respectful space. But there's also there's people in there who just won't necessarily understand, and that's all right. But as long as there are people in there who kind of will respect my pronouns. I think that's one of the really important things. I know I was in the choir with them last year as well, and at that time I hadn't changed my name yet, so that was a lot of kind of just reminding people, and I think a lot of them have adjusted really well and don't really mind at this point. Um, and the director has actually been really good about name and pronouns, which I was kind of surprised at, but um, it's been a really good experience. I think all of this has kind of taught me that people can be cool people, and that not everyone is like homophobic and transphobic. Um, it's been a really important journey for me, I think, within Davis, and hopefully when I kind of go out into the larger world, that I just um, that I kind of use my experiences in Davis to kind of make a community for myself. And I think that's one of the really important things, is just being able to find people who respect you and be able to spend your time with them, because that's just one of the that's what that's what people want in life. So I just think the more people that a person can meet that are respectful and nice, good people, and I think the more people you meet that are really good to you, the more success you're gonna have in life, and not just like with your school, but really with your happiness.